Hi, I'm Stephanie Abercrombie with Coldwell Banker Ward Realtors, and I am here today talking to Dana Calhoun, who is on the ballot today, or I guess tomorrow, for, tell me what it is that you're running for?
District 2 Supervisor.
District 2 Supervisor, okay. And District 2 is?
District 2 covers Ione, Comanche, Carbondale, Amador City, and the unincorporated areas down in the west area of Amador County.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah. And what does a county or a supervisor do?
Supervisor, their main function is to manage the budget for the entire county. And so there's many different departments that run underneath the county, and so managing those, making sure that everything is, orderly, the budget is balanced. That's the main focus. But there's also, a lot of ordinances that need to be put in place or managed. The Board of Supervisors, all sorts of things.
Okay, so will you be working with the supervisors from the other areas?
Yes.
The other districts?
Yeah.
Okay, how many districts is Amador County broken
There are
into?
5 districts.
5?
Yeah,
Okay.
District 2 is the biggest district.
Sounds like it, yeah.
It's a big responsibility. It covers a lot of area and a lot of population. I actually heard there was a little rumor that they might be redistricting or making the boundaries a little bit different because District 2 is growing so much. Right. So that might be changing soon, just to make it fair.
Right.
Cover.
Okay. Right. Okay. And is that because there's so much building going on in Ione right now? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah. So you have Castle Oaks and you have Wildflower.
Right.
There's a lot of building going on out there. Castle Oaks, I think there's supposed to be 200 homes built this year. That's a lot.
More.
Yes.
200 more.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then Wildflower, they have, I believe they have another 99 homes going out to 104. And I heard a rumor also that Comanche might be building another development out there too.
Oh wow.
So I don't know how, that might be, in the early planning phases,
right,
but we're talking a few hundred homes. So
yeah,
it's growing. District 2 is growing.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
All right. So, well, let's start off with a little bit about who you are and where you came from. Just you. Just who you are.
Me. Okay. Well, I grew up down in the Bay Area by Santa Cruz, a little town called Los Gatos, and it's a cute, gorgeous little town. I visit there often. I love it. It's a perfect little getaway.
Yes.
My family had owned property at South Shore Comanche for years, even before I was born. So I spent most of my summers, actually all of my summers, at Comanche. And I lived a little bit at Kirkwood Ski Resort in the 90s. I was an avid snowboarder. Very, very much into extreme sports when I was younger. Probably why I have a bad back now. But wakeboarding and parasailing and
really, oh my gosh,
yeah, skateboarding, all of it. So
wow.
Yeah. So anyways, I lived up there for a little while and I had a great time. And then I moved back out to El Dorado County and then back to Sacramento for work. I needed to work, so I went back there, and then I ended up in Amador County permanently in the beginning of 2016. Yeah. So
that's cool.
Exciting.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. My background is business. It's I was in the restaurant business my whole life, and I used to own a restaurant. I owned a restaurant at Mayfair Field Air Force Base. I was a contractor for the federal government out there. It was really, really fun, and prior to that, I worked in fine dining. I did everything from serving to bartending, and then I ended up being a corporate manager at a really young age. I was 24 years old when I came on with Main Street Maine, which is a worldwide company, and I fell in love with the business. I'd actually done a year of medical school, and I was working in urology. I worked for Dr. Smopoulos, who has an office in Placerville and in Jackson for many years. Hi.
You can say hello.
And sorry, that's it.
She's gonna now come say hello.
How are you?
I'm doing a video. Can you go? Yes.
That's so funny. Hi, you are so cute. You're so cute. Hi. So what was I saying? Oh yeah. So Main Street, Maine. We're from Main Street, Maine. I love that. That was really fun. I was in love with the restaurant business. But I didn't really know if I should stay in medical or if I should go to, for the restaurant business. Right. So I actually met with a career consultant, and they said, hey, if you are in love with the restaurant business, I said, yeah, I really am. I absolutely love it. They said, then you need to get on with a company where you can grow. You know, you need to stop working for those little mom and pop restaurants and go for a bigger, corporation. So I
Right.
said, okay, well, I'm in school and I want to be a PA and I'm loving working in urology, but at the same time, I have to go where my heart is.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. And I put all of my energy into it. I said, I don't even have a plan B. And from there, I ended up consulting and opening several different restaurants for people.
Oh, wow.
I worked as an executive chef. I was a unit training manager. I worked for about 3 really large worldwide companies,
Okay.
and I loved it. It was absolutely amazing. But then the natural progression is to open your own restaurant. So I did that, and I loved it. It was great. I ended up hurting my back going through a series of spinal surgeries.
Oh, no.
And so I closed my restaurant in 2014 and I totally retired from everything at that point.
Oh,
So,
wow.
which was hard because that was absolutely my first love. But I learned a lot. I learned a lot about business. I'm a numbers girl. So this is kind of a natural progression for me. I've always, volunteered a lot in my community, and this kind of came at the right time for me. So,
Yeah. And see how that.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you had the restaurant was out at Mayfair from what years?
2009 to 2014.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And what was it called?
Blue Bayou Cafe. Yes, I was inside of the air traffic control building at the FAA.
Yeah. Okay.
So
okay.
Blue Bayou is kind of, little play on words, it was silly.
Oh, I like that. That's very yes.
Because we always sit, on the rooftop and watch the air shows and stuff, and
Yeah.
it was really fun. They tipped their wings at us, and
Yes.
it was
Oh,
cool.
fun.
A bunch of pilots and air traffic controllers and Secret Service was in there all the time.
Wow.
It was fun. It was really great. Yeah.
My husband, he's still out at Mayfair. He's in the National Guard. So he was flying Blackhawks out there.
Wow.
And actually is going to start flying Blackhawks again. So
Wow.
you'll have to ask him. I know,
That's
but when he
pretty
flew
neat.
fixed wings too, I'll have to ask him if he ever went in there.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. That's
So,
really cool.
After living in all these different places, what made you decide to actually settle in Amador County?
Well, I was living in Cameron Park at the time and said, I want to buy a cute little house somewhere. I don't really know where to buy. I started looking in Nevada. I was looking in Arizona. I was driving around looking at houses everywhere. And then this cute little house popped up, and it was 4 miles from Comanche. And I said, I'm gonna go check it out. Comanche. Oh, that's so cool. That's my
Where I
stomping
grew up,
grounds.
yeah.
I love it. And so I went out there. It was a cute little house, perfect. At the time I was a single mom, so just me and my son. And I snatched it up, and I'm really glad I did.
Oh, neat.
Yeah,
Well,
so
that's
it's
good.
perfect for me. Yeah.
So, what is your favorite? What would you say your favorite thing is about living in Ione? Because Ione really does kind of have a little bit of a different feel than, like we call Pine Grove Pioneer Upcountry, but I mean Ione is even further down. Like it's.
Yeah.
So it just kind of has a different. So what's your favorite things to do there?
Well, everyone knows everyone. I love walking down the street and talking to people. Everyone knows everyone, and everyone is so friendly there. My husband works for Ion Fire,
Oh, okay.
so obviously we know everybody in town.
Yeah. Yes.
I love the sense of community there. Just all the different organizations. There's the Preston Castle Foundation, and we have the Ion Firefighters Association, and there's the Ion Picnic Association. There's always something going on. It seems like every weekend we're at a fundraiser or some type of event, and it's really neat. I love that camaraderie, the community is just always it kind of sticks together.
Yeah.
So I like that a lot.
That's good to know. Yeah. I mean, I don't know a lot about. I've been here since 2004.
Okay.
But I grew up in Folsom, so not too far away.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ione just kind of seems like its own little enclave, so I'm not really as familiar with Ione. So
Yeah.
that's cool.
It's cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that you mentioning your husband working for fire, you had put on here one of the issues that you want to address when you're elected is the fire remapping. So,
Yeah.
what exactly does that mean?
Okay, so this is kind of a complicated scenario. I'll try to explain it. Please, if I go too fast, let me know. Okay. Okay. So the county is divided up. Each department kind of has a sphere of influence. Where they would respond to. It makes sense.
Okay.
You
Right.
would respond to the closest area, right? to any kind of incident. 95 or 97% of calls are medical calls, you know, instead of fires, which is fine, no problem. But you want someone to be there as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
And so, if you kind of look at the map, you'll see Ione Fire, and then you'll see Sutter Creek, Jackson, AFPD, which is managed by the county, is they cover the unincorporated areas in Amador County.
Okay.
So they're kind of more up country a little bit, because Jackson will cover that area, Sutter Creek, and then Jackson Valley Fire Protection District, that's where I live, down in the Comanche area. They cover that area. So on June 2nd, the firefighters got a call over the radio and said, respond to area 118.
Okay.
They didn't know where 118 was. It's a new area. What do you mean respond to 118? And so there was chaos over the radio, you know. I don't remember what kind of call it was, probably medical, you know, most likely. And they didn't know where to go. So after they figured out what had happened was the AFPD, their chief, and let me kind of explain. The Board of Supervisors, when you're elected to the Board of Supervisors, you're also automatically placed onto the Board of Equalization, and you're automatically placed on the board for AFPD. Okay, so that's automatically 3 positions.
Okay.
Totally
for
assigned.
every supervisor.
Every supervisor.
Okay.
Yes, so everyone sits on those 3 boards. So the AFPD board has their own chief, you know, and they manage their own area. And what happened was, and I hate even talking about it. It makes me so upset. But what the chief did was the chief went behind everyone else's backs, all the chiefs in the area, and worked with CAL FIRE. Now CAL FIRE, they control the dispatching system that's up in Camino in El Dorado County. That's who does our dispatch for El Dorado County and Amador County. And so they're in charge of the computer system. Let's say a new neighborhood like this is built, you know, then they'd have to go to the computer system and add it.
Okay, so like Wildflower.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So there's always changes to the
Yeah.
CAD, you know. And so what he did was he worked for 6 months behind the scenes, remapping the entire county without talking to the other chiefs, all the way down into the Ione area. When so what they did was they changed the map according to LAFCO boundaries.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
This has nothing to do with response areas.
Right.
Okay, so if AFPD, if their closest engine is 20 minutes up country and Ione is 2 minutes away from a spot on Highway 88 and Jackson Valley Road, obviously you would think that Ione would respond to that area.
Right.
Well, they changed the map. All the money's on Highway 88, right? That's where all the accidents are. So they took that and said, no, it's an unincorporated area. We want our area back. So we're going to go ahead and respond, even though it's,
response times.
yes. But what they did, Richard Forrester, my opponent, he went to the Ione City Council, and then Patrick Crew, I believe he's your supervisor, District 1. He went to Jackson City Council. They both kind of gave the same scenario and said, and they doubled down on it. They said, well, you know, this is our area and this is what we're going to do. And yeah, we could have been more transparent about what we were doing behind the scenes, but our county councils told us that we didn't have to. So we didn't. I thought that was extremely disrespectful to the chiefs, especially you have chiefs who have worked in this area their entire lives.
Right.
You know, this is their entire life. They don't even take a day off. They work 24/7. You were so cute.
You're lucky you were cute. Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh. And so yeah, so they doubled down on that at the city council meetings, and they said, hey, you know, this is what we're going to do. And the reason why we did this is because we wanted the closest available resource. Well, that was not true.
Right.
Not true at all. I mean, and people would stand up and say, well, what about this call? What about this call? What about this call? They would respond and say, oh, there's always going to be some type of, you know, glitches in the system when you have any kind of changes, and we're working those out, you know. And those were excuses, because, and I finally got a hold of the maps. I posted them on my website so people could see them, because when you have a visual, you can really see how devastating it is. I mean, you had Ione covering a large area, and what they did is they pushed them back to city limits. And I can get you a copy of those maps so you can see them. They're really interesting to look at. And so we threw a huge stink about it. We had every single firefighter at every city council meeting, you know, saying, hey, this is not right. We had all the city councils write resolutions to the Board of Supervisors asking them for very specific things. One of them was to go back to the old maps And then another thing was to, maybe it's a conflict of interest for you guys to sit on both boards.
Yeah.
Especially for a District 2 supervisor. If I'm District 2 supervisor and I'm sitting on the AFPD board,
Right.
and I have a chief who is working against ION, but ION's also in my district, and I'm supposed to be representing them.
Right.
How can I do that? It's hard.
Yeah.
And in this particular instance, they were wrong. What they did was wrong, and they should have changed it back. And so, what we did was we took drastic measure, and I filed for a recall on my district supervisor.
Okay.
Okay. I asked other people to do the same thing, but I understand recalls are very difficult to do. It's a lot of work, and so I just left it up to other people. If you live in District 4 and you want to recall your supervisor, go ahead, but I'm just going to work on District 2 right now.
Right. Yeah.
And so, so I did that, and then the very next meeting for AFPD, they decided, they said, okay, we're going to go ahead and vote to go back to the old maps. So they did. They voted to go back to the old maps.
Okay.
And my opponent, he wrote a response to the recall and said, we already decided to go back to the old maps, so,
You have no reason to recall me.
Right, exactly. But the thing is that the maps were never fixed. They're still not fixed. This happened back in June, and now the last meeting I went to was February 5th, and we're still talking about it.
It's still not.
And I sat in that meeting with every chief and with Patrick Crew and Brian Oneto, and we're still trying to figure out, what's going on. And there's some kind of disconnect. It's almost like they're not really understanding the big picture, what's happening.
Right.
I know that this is about money, because everything is. It's about Measure M funds. Measure M, you get, Measure M is paid 50% on population and 50% on call. So they take this huge territory away from everyone, they're gonna get all of that money.
Right.
And now so if you have a call, say on 88 and Buena Vista, and that's now the jurisdiction of AFPD, they're gonna dispatch AFPD because it's their jurisdiction, and they're gonna dispatch ION because it's the closest available resource, and then they're both gonna go, but if they only need one engine, they're gonna cancel AFPD, but guess who still gets paid? AFPD,
Right.
yeah. And then there was another issue with AFPD, and that was they created Ordinance 008, where if you get in a traffic accident or have a call to your house, and they use any kind of medical equipment on their engine, they're going to charge your insurance $229.
I heard something about that.
Yeah, and I don't feel that that's right, because we already paid a fire tax, and we paid 2 fire taxes.
That's what it's for.
And yeah, exactly. And so our thing before that went into effect, we said, well, why don't you put it on the ballot so people can actually vote on it? If they want a third tax, they'll do a third tax. And they said, oh, we don't need to do this. There are several other counties across the United States that do the same thing. Well, I looked into it, and it's true. A lot of counties do that. But what they do, they do not tax their own citizens. So if you're driving you live in El Dorado County, and you're driving through Amador, you get in an accident,
Right.
you can bill their insurance $229.
Right.
But you can't add a third tax onto
Right.
your
Onto your own
residents.
citizens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't do that.
Right.
And so so I've been kind of following that in other counties, and there's some other local governments that are getting in trouble for this. The IRS is actually going after the county.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I'm kind of foreshadowing a little bit, seeing what's going to happen here in Amador County, and I'm afraid that might actually happen. I just don't think it's worth it. And plus,
True.
they already get restocked from American Legion for all of their medical supplies. So to add this on top of it, that's double dipping, in my opinion. If
True,
you read the
yeah.
ordinance, it says that it's to restock medical supplies.
Oh.
They are
Right. Which
already being
isn't
restocked.
and isn't that what the budget, part of their budget goes to that anyway,
Sure,
right?
yeah. Yeah,
Because that's just,
absolutely.
it's part of doing business. It's
Yeah.
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 It's part of the business.
Yeah. So
Wow.
so that's a hard one. I mean, I guess it's really detailed, the whole problem and how to fix it and everything, but I guess what I would do is explain it to someone like this. If you live outside of the city limits of Ione, those firemen have been responding to your house for a long time. They know who has a high-risk pregnancy. They know who's diabetic. They know who's had, 7 strokes in the last 5 years. They know everyone's medical history. And now you change that boundary, and you have a brand new fire department come into that area that's never been there before. They don't know anything. To me, that's endangering somebody's life.
Right.
That's a public safety issue to me.
Right.
And another thing is, there are special response zones and response areas in the CAD, in the computer system. There was something like 456 special response zones. Those supposedly got erased during this transition, and those special response zones, they're placed there for the safety of the firefighters. So say like MPA, the fireworks plant out in Ione, they know, hey, don't access this area because there's explosives in that area.
Okay.
And that, protects you. Or don't access from this road, you have to go through the gate, and, this is the code to the gate. Those were all taken out of the CAD.
Oh, wow.
So that's another problem. That was never fixed.
Right. Well, then I was thinking, even not only does it increase the response time if they're having to come from further up, but I would imagine that the Ione Fire Department, the roads aren't always that easy to follow. As a realtor driving around trying to find homes, if it's on tour or whatever, I can't always find what I'm looking for. So, the fire department, at least they know because they've been doing it. And I've got some others. So it took them longer to get there, and then they get lost.
Yeah.
Or potentially, I'm not saying that they're going to, but
Absolutely.
there's the potential to get lost. That just,
and it happens all the time.
and I'm sure the argument is, well, eventually they'll know. But,
Right.
but okay, we don't want eventually because
No.
who's going to suffer in the meantime?
Right. Fire departments, they and I'm not in the fire industry. I'm just learning, as I go. And my husband being, part of the fire department, they do pre-planning all the time throughout the week. That's all they do is they do pre-planning.
Right.
And so so AFPD took over all these areas and they haven't done any pre-planning.
Right.
They don't even know where the fire hydrants are. That's pretty scary.
That is.
It's pretty scary.
Yeah.
So
Wow. Yeah, that's a huge issue.
I want that fixed. That's probably my number one goal is to fix that issue if I get elected.
Get the maps back to where
Yes.
they're supposed to be.
Yes. And they're kind of, first they said, oh, well, we wanted the, closest available resource. And then they voted to change it back. Well, now there's been several excuses along the way as to why it hasn't been changed back. And right now they're placing the blame on CAL FIRE, saying, well, we asked them to make these changes and they won't do it.
Right.
They say that their hands are tied because of LAFCO boundaries. LAFCO boundaries don't have anything to do with fire response areas.
Right.
So they're playing games, in my opinion, and I won't ever put up with something like that.
No.
I just won't.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
So let's see, what other one? Let's see, there's another one. Oh, because I've heard of this one, and I tried to find articles online today, and the last thing I found was an interview on Facebook from April of last year. But the Mule Creek water contamination, what's going on with that?
Oh my gosh. So I have been following along just like everyone else. Jack Mitchell from the Ledger Dispatch, he has been doing an amazing job. If you go onto the Ledger
I think
website,
that was where I saw it. It was the Ledger's Facebook page.
Okay, yeah. So if you go onto their website, they have several articles. Jack's done an article. He'll do a regular article, like editorial, and he'll also do an opinion piece, which is great because you can kind of see the contrast. He has a very strong opinion about it, and his opinion is that the city and the county, they need to take action on this, and they haven't taken action. So we're asking why. There's water contamination, obviously, for reasons because when Castle Oaks was built, the prison, they also wanted to expand at the same time, and so they were supposed to build up the wastewater treatment facility.
Okay.
And apparently there is some contract out there between the prison, the city, and the county stating that they're going to build up the wastewater treatment facility. Well, they didn't do it. Not only did they not do it, they expanded the prison and built this second area on the prison and took up some of the spray fields in the back.
Oh.
And so now everything is even more dense,
Right.
So what happens is there's, the ground there is like clay. Nothing really like sinks into the ground. And so then when it rains, it kind of fills up and there's all these cracks underneath the prison and all that contamination comes up, and they need to release it. So they literally open the floodgates and it goes right down Mule Creek. And the problem is, yeah, it's going right down there. So the prison has a coffee roasting facility inside of there, and so there's high concentration of caffeine found apparently in the river.
Oh my gosh.
I've heard rumors, I don't have any proof, but I have heard rumors that killed some of these horses. They had actually overdosed on caffeine.
Oh my
from drinking
goodness.
the water there.
Oh, wow.
The problem is the regional water control quality board. I don't know, they have a really long name. They have been testing the water, but they only test it for certain things, and you have to test for exactly what you want to test it for.
Right.
And so when you ask them, hey, you need to test for this, they won't do it. Like ibuprofen, you know,
Yeah.
all kinds of pharmaceuticals
Right.
being flushed. It's a prison. Obviously, there's going to be pharmaceuticals in the sewer system, and that's part of the problem. So,
Why won't they test for it? What's
because they don't want to find what's there.
and so who's been asked to test? The actual prison
The
or
property owners along that river have asked the state.
the state? Okay.
Yes,
Oh,
they have
but-
asked the state to do
Right.
that, right. And so, you know, just talking to some people that have been dealing with this and have lived there for 20 years, there are people that have gotten sick. There are people who, my husband actually was out there on a fire a few years ago. It was 107 degrees out. And they were right there. They had thrown their pump from the engine into the river, not knowing that it was contaminated or anything,
Right.
spraying a fire with that water. And then he was so hot, you know, took off his helmet, took the water and splashed it in his face, and he said it was like an ammonia cloud. He couldn't even breathe, and his eyes were burning.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, really bad. Some of Jack Mitchell's articles will talk about some of the people that have gotten sick from the water over there, and nothing has been cleaned up. So, I mean, I guess something that they could do, maybe the county or the city, they could put a cease and desist on the prison and say, hey, no more business here, no more transport, no more nothing, and until you get it cleaned up.
Right.
So, right now the county is in talks with the state, or with the water board, I guess, trying to get this resolved. But this has been going on a long time. They said in 2006, I think, they hired a consultant to see what they could do about it, and I don't know whatever happened. I can't find any literature on it or minutes from any meetings talking about it, so I don't know what happened at that point. That's something, if I'm elected, obviously, it's gonna open a huge can of worms. I'll be able to see what's actually going on and
Right.
find out more, because right now I'm just like everyone else, sitting down here trying to figure it out.
Right.
So,
Wow.
yeah, it's not good.
No.
It's really scary.
Yeah.
I mean, Castle Oaks is a new development. It's, you know, there's more and more building going on all the time, and wastewater treatment facility is something you don't want to mess around with.
No.
You know, I sit on a board with my homeowners association, and we have our own wastewater treatment facility. And I know
Oh,
if
really?
one drops out of that wastewater facility, we will be fined like that.
Right.
I mean, $100,000 fine, no problem, and
Oh, wow.
all of our reserves will be gone. You know.
Yeah.
But the state, they're not gonna find themselves. So
Right.
that's kind of the predicament that everyone's in. I'm sure everyone wants it cleaned up. Nobody wants dirty water. you
Right.
know? But,
But Is that
there's,
where they want to put their financial resources?
Right.
It's not a priority.
yeah. But in the past, the county has used taxpayer money to fight, you know, other entities
Right.
and paid millions of dollars in lawyers' fees when they knew it was a losing battle. But this is what actual water contamination that's going on.
Right.
So I'm thinking, in the future, you don't know where the priorities lie. You know, there might be some ulterior motives there.
Something you can look into.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm gonna get, I guess I'm gonna have to edit this little snippet.
Okay.
But she chewed on this and I'm so overwhelmed. Nope, it's still recording good. I'm like, we've been talking, it's not recording. You are such a speaker, I wish you'd go sit somewhere else. Okay, oh, this one really interests me. Small business growth. Now we talked before I started the video about, you know, increasing business, and you mentioned at the beginning of the video that you owned your own business. So how do you see increasing opportunities for small business?
Well, when I first moved to Ione, I was thinking about, you know, maybe I'll open a little place here. You know, I didn't know if it was going to be a restaurant or maybe a little retail shop. So I started looking at, so there was a bunch of empty places for lease right on Main Street. So
Right.
I went and looked at them and got applications and looking around, and I got like a weird feeling. You know, the prices were really high for an area that doesn't do a lot of business.
Right.
And I kind of felt like, hey, you know, do they not want business here? Is that why they're kind of raising the prices? What's going on? So I wrote to the city council, and they told me, well, we do have these grants for new businesses. And I said, oh, wonderful. What do you do with them? You know? and then I never got an email back after that.
Oh,
So I don't know where the money goes from these grants, but it would be great to have some of those. There's a lot of people in Ione who, I mean, stay-at-home moms that might want to, hey, my kids are now in school full time, I want to open a business. It would be great to do that. Give them some seed money to do that. The more businesses you have on Main Street, the more likely it is people are going to say, oh, let's go shopping in Ione, before they think about where they're going. It's a destination.
right.
You know, the restaurant business is very similar to that.
Right.
People say, oh, I can't believe that Chili's opened up right next to you. Aren't we so mad? I said, not at all. It brings us more business.
Right.
That's just how it works. And so that's what I would love to see for Ione, is that Main Street really develop and have different types of businesses in there, so people, they automatically come there. And hey, if one restaurant is full and they're on a wait, you go to another restaurant. But that place down there is so cute. It's such a nice little area.
It is. I know.
I could see it booming. And we have such a great, strong economy right now. It's crazy to me that we're not taking advantage of that.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So I would love to dive deeper into that and see what we can do, and maybe get some grants
Yeah.
for, you know, for people who want to own businesses down there.
Yeah. Is that like unique to Ione, or do other cities in Jackson have, or not Jackson, in Amador County have?
Amador City's kind of the same way. They're kind of hurting up there. You know, they don't really get a lot of traffic. It might be because of the bypass.
Right.
You know, that might be part of it. But Ione is a little bit different because you have the prison right there.
Mm-hmm.
Has a ton of people. They
Right.
come and eat lunch at Ione Taco Truck and Chevron and, you know, all these different places.
They
go
come
to
and
golf
eat lunch
course.
at Chevron.
They do.
I'm
not
but oh my gosh.
They really do. It would be really nice to have another place to eat.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
And their shift changes all the time.
Yeah.
You know, so it would be great.
Well, I mean, like we just talked about Wildflower and Castle Oaks, you know, that's a lot of people. Like,
Yeah.
there's another 100. I mean, already I think they had Wildflower put in, I think, 88 new homes, something like that, and then another 100. Castle Oaks is going to do 200. Like, Don Luis can only, you know, feed so many people.
Yes.
You know, he's
Yeah.
not that big.
Right.
But I know I talked to Stephanie, who owns 40 Wings on Main Street in Jackson, and she said, similar to what you said, that when there was a restaurant that recently closed down, and now the Nationals restaurant is going through some renovations, and she said when those two restaurants were open, she could stay open late on Main Street. People would just, you know, because the restaurants were open, people came and they walked Main Street and they shopped and stuff. And now that they're closed, she said it's like really killing business.
Yeah.
So you're right, like and I even asked about, you know, when you've got other shops and stuff, and she said this exact same thing. That having more to draw people in is better for everybody.
Yes.
You know, if there's not about competition, it's
Yeah.
about what can we offer people. Let's be a destination.
Yeah.
And then because Amador City's part of District 2, right? You said?
Yes.
Yeah, I was there taking pictures the other day, and it's so quiet. Like Sutter Creek. I interviewed the owner of Heart and Soul last week, and she's in Sutter Creek, and she had asked people, because she's been there since, I think she said, she's been there 9 years, so 2011. And so it was after the bypass opened, and so she asked them, you know, has the bypass affected business? For Sutter Creek, it hasn't been as bad. She said that they actually thought it was great because semi-trucks aren't barreling through the middle of town anymore, and they're not making a bunch of noise. But I can see how for Amador City being tiny like it is, the bypass probably did,
Yeah.
you know, because it's easy to come up the bypass and make a quick left, and now you're into Sutter Creek, you
Yes.
know. Whereas Amador City is a little bit more
Yeah.
convoluted,
Yeah.
and then it was closed for a while because of the bridge, when
Right.
they did the bridge reconstruction.
Yeah.
So, but I know we went last summer to, was it Dancing in the Streets? Is that what they call it?
Yes.
Yes, and that was a lot of fun, and there was lots of people, so
Yeah.
hopefully we can get the word out.
They have a nice little community there.
They
They
do.
have like a little coffee shop. People do open mic night,
How fun.
all that, you know. But it would be cool to get a little more business up there.
Yeah.
I was at one of their city council meetings recently, and there were two men who are proposing a new restaurant in town.
Oh, in Amador City?
In Amador City.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it was kind of looked like a decent sized project. So
Okay.
I mean, maybe that'll bring a little bit of business
That'd be nice.
up there.
Yeah.
But it's hard, you know, you don't want to be that middleman.
Right.
When the business isn't doing well to when, you know, maybe it is doing well, you're going to take all the heat and try to get other businesses to come in.
Right, yes, yeah.
You know, it's going to be hard. So maybe if there was some type of subsidy or help, you
Yeah.
know, or even marketing and advertising smart for the county, getting people up here to the lakes, getting people up here to the wineries,
Yep.
you know, that will help a lot.
Yeah.
I know, you know, when I was in the restaurant business many years ago as a server and I was selling wine, that's where I made all my money, was in selling wine. You know, we were wined and dined all the time by big wineries because they wanted us to sell their wine. And it was over in Napa Valley, but we'd go over there and it was okay. We would always say, you know what, the next weekend, let's go over to Amador County, let's go to Shenandoah Valley.
Oh, really?
Yes, and also El Dorado too.
Yeah.
Up in the Fosterville area, yeah. So this is where we went for years because it was kind of hidden, you know.
Yes.
And I liked that. You know,
Yeah.
I did. I really liked that.
Yeah.
And they didn't charge $20 for a tasting.
No. Exactly. I remember when it was free to do tastings in Shenandoah Valley.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 So
But now we want it to be not quite such a well-kept secret.
Right. Yeah.
Let people know. Yeah.
Yes. Because, you know, in economic hard times, you know, we still want those people to come up here.
Yes.
And we want them to know about it. Hey, you know, oh, we love wine tasting. We live in Folsom. You know, let's go up the hill instead of going to Napa Valley. It's half the price.
Yeah.
You know, and it's cute and it's quiet, close.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe something like that. Maybe some marketing and advertising for the area. I see California, you know, doing advertisements. Come to California, vacation in California. I don't know why I'm seeing those commercials because I live in California.
Right. Exactly.
But I see those all the time, and I'm like, you know, Amador County might want to think about doing something like that for the greater Sacramento area and getting people up here, kind of highlighting our features.
I just saw one for Branson, Missouri. on
Really?
TV. Yeah.
Oh,
It said
neat.
come to Branson, and it you know highlighted all the fun little.
Yes.
Now, my brother lives up in Crescent City, and they applied for the HGTV. The TV show's called Hometown or something like that, and there's like a hometown takeover.
Yes, I did
So-
the same thing.
Did they?
Yes.
So this little tiny city made this amazing video that my brother posted onto
Oh,
Facebook.
that's so cool.
So if we could get access to that, that would be a lot of fun to share. Because and that's what I'm thinking. Like if a little tiny town like Crescent City can make this really cool video,
Yeah.
and in a pretty short amount of time, because there wasn't a big window of time to
Right.
apply for this.
Mhm.
I think a county like Amador could put something together and
Yes.
start advertising
Yeah.
for
Well,
to
a group
bring
of people did
in.
that in Ione, and they put together a video.
Okay.
It's because I was having lunch with someone from the newspaper, and he said, "Oh, someone needs my drone to do a video of the
Oh,
castle
that's-
and
yeah.
downtown." And they did interviews with people who lived there for 60, 70 years, and it's on Facebook. I'll send it to you. It's
Just
really
please do.
cute.
I want to share that.
Yeah,
that
it's
sounds like
really
fun.
neat.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So, and then I know another one. It's important to me, but because I have a 13-year-old and a 9-year-old. I used to work for the school district before I started doing real estate. But you had put on there education and IUSD. Now, an IUSD doesn't exist, right? Because it's Amador County Unified.
Mhm.
So what would an IUSD look like?
Well, maybe perhaps we can bring back Ione Unified School District.
So there was one before.
Well, there was Ione High School.
Oh.
So
I knew that.
yeah, so where the junior high is right now
Okay.
on Mill Street, that used to be Ione High School, and it closed in the 80s, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, so there are several people still live in town that went to this high school.
Freshman year.
Yeah, and my son goes in now as
At
at
junior high.
junior high.
Okay.
Yes. And so the problem is that obviously my husband working in fire, you know, they see a lot of accidents on Highway 88. That's one thing. Parents are always really worried about their kids being on that bus on Highway 88. There's just accidents all the time,
Yes.
especially Blue Sky Drive right there. So that's one issue. But the second issue is that Amador County Unified School District has had some issues over the past few years. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with a little bit of competition inside of the county. This county only has one district, and that I think hurts us. So we have so many people. Ione is growing. The Comanche area. We ship all of our high school kids up to Amador and Arkansas.
Yes.
And if we could somehow access, you know, building a new high school, or maybe even taking over part of Preston, because there's a huge campus there already.
That'd be neat.
That would be really neat.
That would be very cool.
Yeah, yeah. So we've been talking about that. There are people that are gung-ho on it and say, yes, we want it back. And then there are people that are totally on the other side and say, this is the stupidest idea I've ever heard of, you know. I don't think either side has really thought the entire thing out, to be honest.
Right.
But
it definitely deserves to be looked into.
I think so.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Well, I could imagine that maybe portions of Amador County might be opposed to it because it takes away a huge population,
Right.
and you get state funds
Yeah.
based on your population.
Mhm.
But I mean, for me personally, it's more about, you know, what can we offer the students, and you know, if it's more beneficial to them to have a high school nearby, you know, and then instead of an Amador and an Argonaut rivalry, maybe we can incorporate a third high school
Yes.
into the
Yeah,
rivalry. Why not?
absolutely. Yeah.
You know, but maybe that'll open up some opportunities for, you know, for sports for students that maybe don't have those opportunities right now.
Yeah. And then if you want to even circle back around to the small business growth, you have a high school in an area like that, it is going to, I mean, be amazing for little restaurants to be able
Yes.
to open up. Those high school kids, they spend a lot of money.
Yeah.
They spend a lot of money. I used to work for a large corporation, and we opened several restaurants, and we'd always put it right next to a high school or a college campus.
Yeah.
Those are the people who spend the most.
Oh yeah.
And I think it would be great having all high school kids and junior high school kids walking around downtown Ione and, you know, really feeling,
Yes.
you know, that sense of home there instead of being shipped up the hill
Right.
every day. So, I mean, my son is in 7th grade. Obviously, it's not going to happen anytime soon,
Right.
yeah, for him. But we also have an 8-year-old, so maybe
Oh,
it can
okay.
happen for him.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really want to look into it. There is that surplus property over by Preston. It has a lot of great features there. They have everything.
Right.
I mean, it's going to cost a lot of money to remodel everything, but
Yeah.
I think it can be done.
Yeah.
A lot cheaper than building a brand new school.
Right.
But even like our elementary school is falling apart. It's in bad shape. So yeah, I think that's a big deal. I know that the supervisor doesn't really dive into education, but I think that supervisor could assist a group of people who are interested in doing that and help it along the way.
Right.
You know, so I'm all for it. I'm all for exploring the idea and seeing what we can do.
Right. Yes.
You know, I'm not. If it wasn't broken, I wouldn't want to try to fix it. But in my opinion, it's broken.
Right.
So and that's as nice as I can say it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I'm with you on that one. All right. Let's see. I know I have another one here. Oh, and this is, I guess it's fairly new because the casino is fairly new. But you had written on there impact fees. What are they, and what concerns you about the situation?
Well, this is another very long, drawn out complex issue. But so the casino is finally here. It opened up April 29th, I believe, of last year. So it's been open for almost a year now. When a casino or any large business comes to town, they obviously have impacts on the area. And so it is fair for the local government and for the tribe, excuse me, to have an agreement. In this case, it's called an ISA, an Intergovernmental Services Agreement. And in this agreement, they talk about all the impacts, and then they attach impact fees to each of those impacts. So they talk about, how is this going to impact the sheriff's department? The sheriff said, well, we want to create a new beat in that area. Okay, that's fair. And so we're going to have to hire so many positions for that area to cover that beat. And then you have fire also. Well, if you have a new casino, there might be medical calls all the time and everything. So you're going to have to do something about that, either build a fire station or add to the existing fire stations. And then also the roads, the roads out there needed to be fixed, and so that was part of it. And it goes on to substance abuse and gambling, Health and Human Services can get a little portion of it, and all different types of impact fees. Well, what happened was they kind of over-exaggerated the impacts for the casino. Not kind of, but a lot.
Okay, so the
county did.
The county did.
Yes. So the county imposed all of these fees on the tribe, and from an outsider's perspective, it looks like the reason they did that is because they were trying to keep them from opening.
Okay.
Said, hey,
let's make it as painful as possible.
Yes.
So that they'll want to do it.
Yes. Like, I don't really think that 16 sheriffs are needed and that's how many that they demanded.
16
Even
new
though-
deputies.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a lot.
Because I don't think, you know, Amador County got new deputies when Jackson Rancheria opened. I don't know. I haven't
Right.
looked into that, but
Yeah, I don't
I would
know.
be surprised to hear that.
Yeah,
They got 16
and Jackson Rancheria doesn't have an ISA with the county either. They voluntarily, according to Chuck Eiley at the last Board of Supervisors meeting when they were reviewing the budget for 2021, he stated that Jackson Rancheria pays $1.57 million voluntarily to the county every year. And he said, we can't rely on that, you know, but we are gonna get it this year, hopefully. So anyways, so yeah, so the county, they impose all of these impact fees, but when they say, hey, you know, we need to hire 16 people for this department, when they don't really need to hire that many people, and they've only hired maybe one so far, and they were paid 2 years ago.
Okay, so they've already received the money for this.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it's kind of an issue, you know. And I mean, I can go really deep into that budget. I won't go too deep into it, but let's take roads. Roads is an interesting one. So yes, absolutely. The casino, you know, they have traffic. It's gonna, you know, you're gonna have road wear and tear. Plus, Buena Vista Road, it was full of potholes. It needed to be redone.
Right.
So
Yes, they did that at
Yes.
the stoplight.
The tribe did that.
Right.
Yeah. So they didn't pay
Right.
the county. They did it directly.
Oh, okay. So they just.
Yeah, so most impact fees got paid to the county, and then they said they'll take care of it. But there were some things that the county said, you can't open until this is done. So the tribe said, okay, then we'll do it. So they were gonna build out Buena Vista. It was supposed to cost something like $6 million to do it. When they dug down, they found out, oh my gosh, that underneath is just torn up. It needs to be all replaced. So the project cost double.
Oh wow.
Then they put in the stoplight, which was actually free. I mean, this stoplight, there used to be an accident there every week. And since it's been put in, there was one accident about a week ago, and it wasn't even really at the light. It was 300 feet down the road.
Okay.
So that light has been a great lifesaver.
Yes.
But in addition to doing those roads, they also paid a road fee, an RTMF fee.
Right. Okay.
RTMF is it's a small account, I guess, a program through ACTC, where each jurisdiction they pay into a pot. It's been around since like 2006, I think. They pay into a pot. There's a committee. They meet once a year and they say, okay, how much money do we have? Let's use this money to do these projects. And then they say, okay, and they do it. But not much has come out of that. But the casino paid $1.4 million into that RTMF, and they paid it in 2018. When I went to go meet with the director of ACTC, he didn't even know that existed.
Oh wow.
And so, to me, that's even a bigger issue, because there is a disconnect between the different departments in the county. Why does the Transportation Commission not know that the tribe had paid this $1.4 million? You know, and that's just another small sliver. But they paid over $22 million, plus everything on top of it with the roads and everything. So they paid millions and millions of dollars, and we don't really know where it's going.
So they pay millions of dollars into the county,
Into the county.
but there's no
Where is it?
accounting for where it's going.
Not really, no. There is also, in addition to all of the impact fees that were directly earmarked for specific items in the budget, there was also something called the community fund. This is something I've been very vocal about. So the community fund was, you know, you have a new tribe, you have a new business in town. Obviously, there's a small group of people who are trying to fight the casino for many years.
Yeah.
So they come in, they want to make friends, you know? They say, hey, we want to be a good neighbor. What can we do for the community? You know, can we build you a park? Can we, you know, rebuild, I don't know, your basketball courts at the school? When we do this. So what they did was, the county said, well, we'll go ahead and take care of that for you. You pay us, and we'll make sure that the community is taken care of. And that's a $1 million community fund every year, plus a tax on top of it. So they've already paid that twice. 1.4 and 1.3 million have already been paid. So it's 2.7 million already paid. None of it went to any type of community projects. That RTMF funds, those road funds, sat in that account for 2 years. They used the community fund to rebuild some of the roads in the area. And some of the roads aren't even traveled on by the casino. Those aren't impacted roads.
Right.
So there's another disconnect there.
Right.
What is going on?
Right.
We've asked several times for at least some type of advisory committee or oversight committee for the community fund, made up of people who live in District 2. You know, there are several people that want stuff done. I have a sidewalk project that I'm trying to get done. That's a huge grant, $2.5 million grant. I would love $250,000 of that as a down payment for the grant, because that'll almost guarantee us the grant. That's a good investment, right?
Right.
$250,000 for a $2.5 million grant.
Right.
So we can put sidewalks and have a safe route to school for our kids.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me.
Right.
But they didn't want to do that. And every single time somebody asks, hey, we need to create this oversight committee, they just completely ignore us. So the last week there was a BVAC committee meeting, which is Buena Vista Amador County, meeting between the two entities. And again, they were trying to dodge the question. And so I had to stand up again. 5 people in a row. All right, can you please create this committee? Can you create the committee? They made every excuse in the books. I had to go up there again. I understand you don't have 5 supervisors here. This isn't a meeting. It's not on the agenda. You can't take action on it. But what you can do is you can ask your county council or your administrator to put it on the agenda.
Right.
Let's get it on the agenda. So they kind of agreed to put it on the agenda, but we'll see. We'll see. So there's another meeting, Board of Supervisors meeting next week. So we'll see if it's on there, and if it is, then we'll be able to go in there and have a discussion about it and give some ideas. I've been meeting with a group of people in District 2 for 6 months about this. And we have all sorts of people who have asked for different things. New bleachers over at Howard Park in the horse arena. We have a city council member who wants new the light up crosswalks on Main Street. Maybe those. They're not cheap.
No.
No. We're talking for one crosswalk's like $25,000.
Right.
But out of 1.4 million, it's kind of a drop in the bucket.
Right.
And people would love that.
Yes. It's
There's
safety.
so much you can do with $1 million in that small town. And for it to be sucked up to the county and not spent the way that District 2 wants it to be spent is a problem. So, and the tribe said, hey, we gave this money to you in good faith. We thought that you were going to use it for the community, and you didn't use it for the community.
Right.
So, I'm pretty upset about that, and I'm going to try to change that too. So, if I get elected.
Yes.
If not, I'll still try to change it.
Yes, exactly. Just in a different way.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So the Board of Supervisors meetings, they're broadcast, aren't they?
Yes.
Like, is it like a Facebook Live or?
Yes, KVGC, they do
KVGC
Facebook
does.
Live.
Okay, right. Yeah. I know I was on the grand jury a couple of years ago, and I remember at the time thinking, I need to start attending the Board of Supervisor meetings, and of course that hasn't happened. But now, after talking to you, I really feel like, and I'm not District 2 because I'm up here in Jackson, but but I know there's probably plenty of things that I should
fire
be.
issue definitely affects you guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah. And hey, there's another casino that might go into Plymouth too.
Right.
Yeah. So obviously those impact fees will affect everybody. So the more people that are involved, the better. I think. And I understand people are busy. People have lives. I mean, we have 3 kids. It's my husband works 2 jobs. It's really hard. I'm running a campaign right now. It's really hard to get involved. It is. And even all the things I want to get involved with, I can't get involved with. My schedule is full. Every Tuesday night, it's like city council and my HOA, and we have all these meetings on the same night. I can't make it to every meeting. And it's hard. Yes, it is. But having it live streamed is really convenient for people.
Yeah.
There are times when if I'm not feeling good or something, I'll just watch it on TV at home.
Yeah.
And people comment, we have little conversations, which is interesting to see what people are thinking at that time. I like that.
Right. Yeah. At the very least, it's a good way for people to know what's going on in their community. Be more aware.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you'd be surprised how many times things just kind of slip through.
Yep.
And I don't think people want things to slip through on purpose. Maybe sometimes, but sometimes a conversation about something, the more people you get involved in the conversation, really makes you start thinking about whatever the subject is in a different way. I've seen boards completely flip because 2 random people just showed up and gave a different point of view. So those conversations have to happen.
Absolutely.
You can't just throw it on an agenda and say, yeah, I vote yes. Right. You really have to dive deep into it.
Yeah.
So I like going to those meetings. I think it's fun. I don't know.
Yeah, and if you get elected, you get to go anyway.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
You don't have to be there.
Yes. Yeah.
The puppy has decided to join us for the last little bit of the interview.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else, I'm gonna try to get this, my goal is to get this up onto the website tonight.
Oh, neat.
And you had mentioned that there are only 2 places to drop off your ballots. So can you actually vote at these places, or
Yes,
you
you
actually have to
can.
drop off the ballots?
You can do either.
Okay,
Yes.
so there's 2.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Ione?
there's 2 voting centers. One is, I believe, Mace Meadows. The other one
Okay.
is the VFW Hall on Amador Street in Ione,
Okay,
right off of Main Street. And then there's also ballot boxes placed strategically around the county. There's one at Ione Market. I don't know where the other ones are, but it's on the elections website.
okay, and what is the elections website?
I think it's on amador.gov.
Amador.gov, okay.
Yeah. You can go on there. And then you can also mail it in as long as it's postmarked by March 3rd.
Which is tomorrow.
Yes,
Right? Yeah.
yes, tomorrow, yeah, Tuesday. And yeah, if you want to bring it in, some people don't like, with the Voter Choice Act, everyone received a ballot in the mail.
Okay,
And so some people aren't very happy about that. You can bring your ballot down to a voting center and say, I want to use the machine, or I want to, stick it in the machine myself and watch it go through.
right,
That's fine
okay,
too.
right,
They're very flexible on, however
that's
you
good.
want to vote is fine.
that's good.
And you go down there to get a little sticker.
Yes. Well, I always like to take my kids too. I like them to see me vote.
Yes,
Because
that's
I
great.
think voting is, I've missed one since I turned 18. I've missed one election. And it was, I think, like a midterm election, but I just forgot. I just was busy. I just forgot.
It happens.
But yeah, I like to actually go and do the voting. And what's the other thing? Oh, so how quickly will the results come out?
Well, the elections office says that they're going to give the first numbers tomorrow night at 8 p.m.
Okay.
Yeah. So depending on if there's a spread, if there's so many votes out still,
Right.
they might not be able to give a final count.
Right.
So they'll have to wait until more and more ballots come in.
And
There are
where
a lot
can
of
people like keep track of that? Is there
The website,
okay?
the amador.gov website, they'll have a number
Like a little
there.
counter. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
That'll be kind of
As
exciting.
of this morning, KBGC reported, I think, 1,956 people had voted
Oh wow.
as of about 8 o'clock this morning. So,
Okay.
I'm sorry, just in District 2.
Right.
So
right.
in
Right.
the entire
Yeah.
county, that's all I care about is District 2.
Well, right. We're talking about District 2, so yes. Yeah.
In the entire county, about 8,000 people voted already
Oh wow.
out of 37,000. I don't know how many registered voters are in the entire county. District 2, there are like 5,600
Okay.
registered voters. We
Okay.
had about 1,900 already turn in, which is good because in the
Pretty
last
good.
election for the District 2 supervisor position, I believe only 2,400 voted.
Oh wow.
So to have 1,900 in already is a good sign that people
Yes.
are interested in what's going on.
Right.
So maybe,
That's good.
maybe people are interested in seeing something different.
Right. Seeing some change.
Yeah, yeah. I'll definitely, if I'm elected, this is so cute. My dogs love these.
Just gonna share with you.
You are so cute. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I forgot what I was gonna say.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Well, this has really been eye-opening for me and a lot of fun. And we've been Facebook friends for a little while, and we
Yes,
can't even
yeah.
remember why or how.
That's so
I think it
funny.
was probably somebody's online party.
Probably.
I don't know.
Probably a Peyton wine party, right?
Something, yes, I don't know, but yeah, so it's great to actually meet you in person.
Yeah,
and
you too. Thank
yeah,
you so
so
much.
I appreciate you coming and
Yes.
talking with me and sharing this this with me, and yeah,
Of course.
that's really great.
Yeah,
So
thanks for having me.
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, well, good luck.
Thank
to
you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, thank you, and hopefully you guys will be seeing this later tonight. And don't forget to go out and vote, and make sure it's postmarked by tomorrow, even if you don't go to the polling places, which there are less of this year, which I didn't even realize. So yeah, make sure you check your mail, find your ballot, vote, and get it sent in. So, all right, thanks. Why are you
No.
staring at it?
Keep going until it gets to 1 hour. It's almost there. 1 minute
Okay,
left.
well, I have things to edit
It's
out.
only 1 minute left.
Okay, you wanted to see a straight hour, but I'm going to be editing stuff out, so you're not
I
going to see
don't
it.
care. I'm gonna see it get to a full hour.
All right. How much
That was
longer?
so funny.
I don't know. It's at 13.
She's
14.
very
15.
She's a little perfectionist. Like she likes things.
17.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is she your editor? Does she do editing?
No,
Not
I
yet.
should make her.
You should teach her. She'd probably love it.
Probably.
Kids will be coming. I use DU recorder.
Half a minute left.
It's a free app on my phone.
Really?
It's really cool. Yeah.
recorder?
D recorder.
Oh,
Yeah, because you can actually record your screen also.
Oh, right,
You
yeah.
can add pictures and you can add videos and
Oh, really?
add music and all kinds of weird text and stuff and
Oh, neat.
swirlies and
Oh,
yeah.
very cool.
Yeah,
I'll
it's
have to look for
pretty
that.
10
Yeah.
seconds.
I know,
Nine,
like,
And I think
Eight,
if you do the
7,
it's only like
six,
$7 for
5,
the extended
4,
Uh-huh.
full
3,
package version.
2,
It's really, really neat.
1.
And you can